When the Industrial Revolution released a gush of usable energy from coal, oil, and falling water, it launched a great escape from poverty, disease, hunger, illiteracy, and premature death, first in the West and increasingly in the rest of the world, as we shall see in chapter 5 and 8, and the next live in human welfare, the end of extreme poverty and the spread of abundance, with all its moral benefits. Will depend on technological advance that provide energy at an acceptable economic and environmental cost to entire world. And if these concepts define the narrative of human progress, the tragedy we were born into, and our means for eking out a better existence. The first piece of wisdom they offer is that misfortune may be no one's fault. A major breakthrough of the scientific revolution, perhaps its biggest breakthrough, was to refute the intuition that the universe is saturated with purpose. In this primitive but ubiquitous understanding, everything happens for a reason. So when bad things happen, accidents, disease, famine, poverty, some agent must have wanted them to happen. If a person can be fingered for the misfortune, he can be punished or squeezed for damage. If no individual can be singled out, one might blame the nearest ethnic or religious minority, who can be lynched or massacred in a program. If no murder can plausibly be indicted, one might cast about for witches, who may be burned or drowned, failing that one points to sadistic gods who cannot be punished but can be placated with prayers and sacrifice. And then there are this disembodied force like karma, fate, spiritual message, cosmic justice, and other guarantors of the intuition that everything happens for reason. Galileo, Newton, and replace this cosmic morality play with a clockwork universe in which every event are caused by condition in the present, not goals for the future. People have goals, of course, but projecting goals onto the working of nature is an illusion. Things can happen without anyone taking into account their effect on human happiness. This insight of the scientific revolution and the Enlightenment was deepened by the discovery of entropy. Not only does the universe not care about our desires, but in the nature course of events, it will appear to dread them, because there are so many more ways for things to go wrong than for them to go right. Houses burn down, ships sink, battles are lost for want of a horse or nail. Awareness of the indifference of the universe was deepened still further by an understanding of evolution. Predators, parasites, and pathogens are constantly trying to eat us, and pets and spoilers organism try to eat our stuff. It may make us miserable, but that's not their problem. Poverty to need no explanation. In a world governed by entropy and evolution, it is the default state of humankind, where does not arrange itself into shelter or clothing, and living things do everything they can to avoid becoming our food. As Adam Smith pointed out, what needs to be explained is worse. Yet, even today, when few people believe the accidents or disease have perpetrators, discussions of poverty consist mostly of arguments about whom to blame for it. None of this is to say that the natural world is free of barbarons. On the contrary, evolution guarantees there will be plenty of it. Natural selection consists of competition among genes to be represented in the next generation, and the organisms we see today are descendants of those that etch out their labor in contest for mates, food, and dominance. This does not mean that all creatures are always rapacious. Modern evolutionary theory explains how selfish genes can give rise to unselfish organisms, but the generosity is measured unlike the cells in a body or the individual in a colonial organism. Humans are genetically unique, each having accumulated and recombined a different set of mutations that arose over generations of entropy from replication in their lineage. Genetic individuality gives us our different tastes and needs, and it also set the stage for strife, families, couples, friends, lives, and societies seated with particular conflicts of interest, which are played out in tension, arguments, and sometimes balance. Another implication of the law of entropy is that complex systems like an organism can easily be disabled because its functioning depends on so many improbable conditions being satisfied at once. A rock against the head, a hand around the neck, a well-aimed potion alow, and the competition is neutralized. More, more tempting still to language using organism. A thread of balance may be used to cover cost or labor, opening the door to oppression and exploitation. Evolution left us with another burden: our cognitive, emotional, and moral faculties are adapted to individual survival and reproduction in an arcane environment, not the universe thriving in a modern want. To appreciate this burden, one doesn't have to believe that we are cavemen out of time, only that evolution, with its speed limit measured in generation, could not possibly have adapted our brains to modern technology and institution. Humans today rely on cognitive faculties that worked well enough in traditional society, but which we now see are infested with bugs. People are by nature illiterate and innumerate, quantifying the world by one too many, and by love guesstimates They understand physical things as having hidden essence that obey the law of sympathetic magic or voodoo rather than physics and biology. Object can reach across time and space to affect things that resemble them or that have been in contact with them in the past. Remember the belief of pre-scientific revolution Englishmen. They think that words and thoughts can impinge on the physical world in prayer and curse. They underestimate the prevalence of coincidence. They generalize from partly samples, namely their own experience, and they listen by stereotype, projecting the typical traits of a group onto any individual that belongs to it. They infer causation from correlation. They think holistically in black and white, and physically treating abstract network as concrete stuff. They are not so much intuitive scientists as intuitive lawyers and politicians, marshalling evidence that come from their convictions while dismissing evidence that contradict them. They overestimate their own knowledge, understanding, latitude, competence, and luck. The human moral sense can also work at cross purpose to our well-being. People demonize those they disagree with, attributing difference of opinion to stupidity and dishonest. For every misfortune, they seek a scapegoat. They see morality as a source of grounds of condemn. Overestimate their own knowledge, understanding, latitude, competence, and luck. The human moral sense can also work as cross-purpose to our well-being. People demonize those they disagree with, attributing difference of opinion to stupidity and dishonest. For every misfortune, they seek a scapegoat. They see morality as a source of ground for condemning, libel, and mobilizing indignation against them. The grounds for condemnation may consist in the defendants having harmed others, but they also may consist in their having flouted custom, questioned authority, undermined tribal solidarity, or engaged in unclean sexual or dietary practice. People see violence as moral, not immoral. Across the world and throughout history, more people have been murdered to mete out justice than to satisfy greed. But we are not all bad. Human cognition comes with two features that give it the means to transcend in limitations. The first is abstraction. People can co-opt their concept of an object at place and use it to conceptualize an entity in a circumstance, as when we take the pattern of a truth like the deer lamp from the pond to hill and apply it to the child went from sick to well. They can co-opt the concept of an agent exerting physical force and use it to conceptualize other kinds of causation as when we extend the image and she forced the door to open to she pressed Lisa to join her or she forced herself to be quiet. This formula gives people the means to think about variable weight of value and about the cause and its effect. Just the conceptual machinery one needs to frame theories and rules. They can do this not just with elements of dots, but with more complex assembly, allowing them to think in metaphors and analogies. It is a fluid. A message is container, a society is a family, obligation are bond. The second step ladder of cognition is its combinatorial, recursive power. The mind can entertain an explosive variety of ideas by assembling basic concepts like things, place, path, actor, cause, and goal into proposition, and it can entertain not only proportions, but proportions about the proportions and proportions about the proportions about the proportions. Bodies contain humor. Illness is an imbalance in the humors that bodies can sustain. I no longer believe the theory that illness is an imbalance in the humors that bodies contain. Thanks to language, ideas are not just abstracted and combined inside the head of a single thinker, but can be poured across community of thinkers. Thomas Jefferson explained the power of language with the help of an analogy. He who receives an idea from me receives instruction himself without listening mine, as he who lights his taper at mine receives light without darkening me. The potency of language as the original shopping app was multiplied by the invention of writing, and again in later epochs by the printing press, the spread of literacy and electronic media. The network of communicating thinkers expanded over time as population grew, mixed and became concentrated in cities, and the availability of energy beyond the minimum needs for survival gave more of them the luxury to think and talk. When large and connected communities take shape, they can come up with a way of organizing their affairs that work to their members. Mutual advantage. True, everyone wants to be right. As soon as people start to air their incompatible views, it becomes clear that not everyone can be right about everything. Also, the desire to be right can collide with a second desire to know the truth, which is uppermost in the minds of bystanders to an argument who are not invested in which side wins. Communities can thereby come with rules that allow true belief to emerge from the rough and tumble of argument, such as that you have to provide reason for your belief. You are allowed to point out flaws in the belief of others, and you are not allowed to forcibly shut people up who disagree with you. Add in the rule that you should allow the world to show you whether your beliefs are true or false. And we can call the rule science with the right rules, a community of less than fully rational thinkers can cultivate rational thoughts. The wisdom of crowds can also elevate our moral sentiments when a wide enough circle of people confer on how best to treat each other. The conversation is bound to go in certain directions. If my starting offer is I get to rob, bet, enslave, and kill you and your kind, but you don't get to rob, beat, enslave, or kill me or my kind, I can't accept you to agree to the deal or third parties to ratify it because there is no good reason that I should get privileged just because I am me and you are not. Nor are we likely to agree to the deal I get to rob, beat, enslave, and kill you and your kind. And you get to rob, beat, enslave, and kill me and my kind. Despite its symmetry, because the advantages either of us might get in harming the other, are massively outweighed by the disadvantages we would suffer in being harmed. Yet another implication of the law of entropy. Harms are easier to inflict and have larger effects than benefits. We had be wiser to negotiate a social contract that puts us in a positive sum game. Neither get to harm the other, and both are encouraged to help the other. So, for all the flaws in human nature, it contains the seed of its own improvements. As long as it comes up with norms and institutions that channel partial interest into universal benefit. Among those norms are free speech, non-violence, cooperation, cosmopolitanism, human rights, and an acknowledgement of human fallibility. And among the institutions are science, education, media, democratic government, international organization, and markets. Not coincidentally, there were the major brain children of the Enlightenment. Whew. Good.